Base is 71, and it's part one with Nick Sands. Okay, Nick, you're from the Lake District and you've come this distance to give us your experience. Now, you've had a few problems.
Yep.
And you've seen a few things, and you've actually got a BSc in what?
Bachelor of Science in Environmental... Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Science, Environmental Studies.
You got a BSc in Environmental Studies?
Yeah, graduated with honours at grade 2-2.
So with honours?
Yeah.
Well, you haven't had much luck. You've had a few things happen. The show's yours. And I'm going to ask a question. One question ultimately is, you've come a long way by train to give a statement to basis.
Yeah.
Why should anybody listen to a word you have to say?
I've seen the UFOs on several occasions, resulting in threats, brainwashing, drugs, all kinds of horrible abuse.
And when did all this start?
Right, the interest in UFOs...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there. You're Nick Sands. What's your background? And we do know that you've got a connection with the infamous Bobby Sands in Belfast, who hunger strike for the IRA. That's a brave thing to do for anybody to and considering the abuse that involves. So you mentioned off camera that you've got a lot of Bobby in you.
No, it was my father's brother with a comment.
What did he mean by that?
You know when you get brother-sister rivalry and stuff. I mean, I was young at the time. And John was always jealous that my father had a son. He had a daughter. And that was
right
part of it. But I mean, I was young at the time, but
yeah. So you've got a family. Where do you actually live? What's your sphere of influence? Where do you live?
Yeah.
I mean, you've come from the Lake District.
Yeah, I was born in Carlisle. Went to school there. Normal upbringing, football, blah blah blah. Got some GCSEs. Didn't do so well at my A levels, but I had to resit them. Did okay the second time round. Tried to do a science degree in North Wales, Bangor in 1994. I was on a terrible injection called flupentixol. It was damaging my eyesight at my lectures. I only managed about 4 or 5 months at the Bangor University, North Wales. So I came back home. Went to work back in the biscuit factory in Carlisle. Paid a few bills, pocket money, buy some music and hi-fi separates and stuff, and then boring factory work. Decided to come off the horrible injections, damaging my eyesight. Got a place at Sunderland University and went over there, and it was a lot better. Discovered it was the most established environmental degree in the country. Went from student digs called Clanny House to 2 different student houses, and eventually come out with all kinds of modules: water pollution, conservation, countryside management, urban planning, rural planning, blah blah blah. My dissertation project was water quality at a Durham Wildlife Trust nature area within Sunderland. It's like the water quality of Hilton Dean Burt versus amounts of rainfall in the stream, and changes in the water quality due to weather, rainfall. There was a natural spring halfway through the Hilton Dean burn influencing things. I measured dissolved oxygen, total suspended solids, pH, things like that. So got through all that. Put in for a deferred council house application to get somewhere to live after graduating. Single man, no partner at the time. But to my surprise, they offered me a 2-bedroomed house with large gardens north of Carlisle. And so I took that. I only lasted a year there. It was a horrible setup. I couldn't get work there anyway. I didn't have a car. There was one bus per hour to take people from Longtown, Sandysyke into Carlisle. So I ended up resorting to a mountain bike to get my shopping in with a big rucksack, twice a week or something from a supermarket in Carlisle. But from day one it was a horrible setup. They brainwashed my degree out. I was mustard gassed, interrogated, got really cold feeling in my lungs with it. There was something dripping out my nose.
What happened that you were giving you mustard gas or whatever it is? Explain all that. You've missed a lot out there. Could you get back to really? You're obviously very intelligent. You've managed to get yourself a degree. What are these other things going on?
Their agenda was, we don't care about your studies, we don't care about your interests, you know, can't get work in your chosen field, blah blah blah. They wanted UFOs no matter what. They wanted UFOs shot down. End of.
Now what do you mean they wanted UFOs shot down? Where did the UFOs come from?
Right.
We seem to be jumping ahead here.
There's several different UFOs that I've witnessed. Good and bad, but good and bad within the same race as well, like us.
So let's go back to your UFO things. I mean, when did all this happen? Can you go back to the beginning of when all this happened?
Yeah, the very beginning of my childhood interest, or the beginning at the base.
Now, the beginning of your childhood interest to lead to the UFOs. I mean, what happened?
Right, my parents bought me a book as I was growing up. I think it was a Christmas present. It was a book titled "The World's Greatest UFO Mysteries" by Nigel Blundell and Roger Ball, and this had all manner of UFO incidents in it. I mean, you name it, it was in there. And as I was growing up with this book, it just fired my interest, fired my imagination, and I would take this book to bed with me every night. And once I'd finished reading the book, I would go back to the start of the book and continue reading it again. You know, it really fired my imagination. There was cases where, you know, whole families would undergo whatever. You know, there'd be all manner of different cases and things happening. And as I was growing up, I thought, well, I was putting bits together from all the different things and thinking, well, there is such a vast range of things in the book. And there's got to be something to it, you know. And
Is this book primarily based in the United States or where, England or what?
I think there were British authors. I still have the book to this day. It's at my home. I sent a specific article of it to Gary Heseltine regarding a nuclear incident on another star system. Now, I think some of this link with UFOs and nuclear power plants is they want to try to help us humans here on Earth to avoid making some of the mistakes these ET visitors have already made on some of their planets. I think that's a big issue for some of the nuclear and the UFOs link. So
Okay, so you got that book
yeah,
and that stimulated your interest. Why do you think you were given the book? How did you get the book?
I just think they were out Christmas shopping. Just chance, I think.
Well,
Pure
why did your parents buy you a book on UFOs?
I can't answer that, I guess.
Why
you know.
did they think you had an interest in UFOs?
I don't think they had any opinion on it. They were just Christmas shopping for the family, and you know, an impulse purchase or something. I don't think there's anything other to that. But I mean,
did you demonstrate an interest in astronomy or stuff or science or what?
my main interest as I was growing up was actually geography. But there was some family history because of World War II, which is a good point actually. But at the time I couldn't make any links, but afterwards there possibly is.
Explain the link. What's a good point?
Right. One of my grandfathers, he was born down south, I think it was Kent. He got a trade in joinery or carpentry, but on the onset of World War II, he had got called up, I think it was to the army with World War II. He was sent from, I think it was Kent, up here to Carlisle. There's a major bridge at Carlisle, Eden Bridge, and they were told to guard this bridge, Eden Bridge. It's still there now. I think it suffered damage in the major flooding, but it's still there. They were told if Hitler comes over the Eden Bridge, blow the bridge up. So that was my grandfather moving from Kent up to Carlisle. He met his partner Mary, they had family. My father. So that's the beginning of that link, and then his interest didn't lie in carpentry or joinery. His father said at the time, "You will get a trade. You must get a trade." Blah blah. So he got that. Called up from there, Kent to Carlisle, but his interest was in television, I think, television and radio. And he actually constructed his own television from the various parts. He saw a TV shop somewhere, and he wanted to work in the TV shop, but I think someone wouldn't let him. I think it was his father, you know. "I want to go and work in the TV shop, Dad. I want to work in the TV shop." "You will get a trade in joinery," blah 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 blah. He remained interested in TV and radio, so he moved up to Carlisle, and he eventually found a job advert in the local paper for the what was known at the time as RAF 14MU, and that was RAF 14MU, 14 Maintenance Unit. He went through rigorous checks and interviews and everything, and he got the job. I remember him saying to me, He always had this interest, and he was about halfway through his life, and then he says, I got the job I was interested in eventually, you know, and from there all kinds of jobs and promotions came about.
So what other connections with the RAF did you have?
Did he have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once he got the job at 14 RAF 14 MU, he went on different courses. But from the TV, radio became the big interest, I think, and
Amateur radio of some kind or what?
oh heck, he once got some kind of signal from London on a bit of rock. I can't remember what it was like. They were all fascinated by that. He had some kind of a crystal or a black rock, and he picked up some kind of signal from down south. I don't know what that was. So that
This is very. What do you mean he had a black rock? Where did he get the black rock from?
yeah, I don't know whether it was crystal or obsidian or what the heck it was. I can't remember that, I'm afraid. But yeah, the radio took over as the main interest, and he ended up working on the. There was a system called IFF for the aircraft. It stands for Identify Friend or Foe, which would be on like bad weather or something, fog or snow. What the hell is this plane coming in? It was able to help them.
I think down the IF, I think it was like a beacon for landing.
Yeah. So I used to go up in planes testing all kinds of gear from the base there, and then you got to work just on the estuary, which is called the Solway Firth.
Yeah.
And there are huge antennas. There's about 10, 12 really large antennas on the sand at Anthorn, and he used to work night duty there. The antennas, I was told, were global communication systems for some kind of submarines. I think it was called Polaris at the time. He would work nights there doing some kind of work with the subs and that. He signed the Official Secrets Act a long time ago, so obviously he couldn't speak very much to anyone outside of the working.
Well, what did you find out about that? What do you know what happened?
Well, these huge antennas always have red lights on the top at night time. It's a global system for the subs. And then he worked on things called sonobuoys, and the Nimrod aircraft that were based in northern Scotland. I think it was RAF Kinloss. He would work on the sonobuoys, and they're like some kind of hydrophone or to do with the aircraft and the sub and the aircraft. But
so this was pretty high-tech stuff.
Yeah, at the time, yeah. Highly classified. He moved up through, several security clearances and stuff.
And what bases did he go to?
Sorry?
What bases did he operate out of?
I think there was probably only 2 or 3 there. He always got invitations off the boss at RAF Kinloss to go up there, and his boss at Carlisle never would let him go.
But somebody else could get him up there.
Yeah, there was one incident when his boss had one of these sonobuoys to go up to Kinloss, And the RAF have movement operators and things that are supposed to take this, that and the other to the various wherever.
Yeah.
So my grandfather just assumed that the movement operators would have took this sonobuoy up to Kinloss thing, and his boss had put the sonobuoy in the boot of his car. There was a car crash, the sonobuoy ended up in the road. The police were called. What the hell's this? No one knew what it was. No one at the scene. Emergency, they didn't know what it was. They thought it was a nuclear warhead, all this bollocks. And what the hell's that? And it was just a sonobuoy that was going up to Kinloss for the Nimrods and stuff. That was a scary incident that he told me. Yeah.
But the long and short of it is, how did we get you having a UFO book? Being connected with the UFO thing.
Yeah,
you see, there's always there seems to be a military connection here, and UFOs. So, do you know anything about that link, if there is one?
They want to. The UFO occupants want to try and stop us making some of the mistakes that they have already made on their homeworld, particularly nuclear power plants, I think.
And what specifically is there there? And what are the details in that?
It's an inexact science, you know. Some of the radioisotopes are unstable. You get the Chernobyl incident. And Nexus magazine have talked about nuclear meltouts and nuclear melt through. That the capability of that is for, if the reactor core can melt down to the rocks and the layer underneath the rocks, which is the upper mantle, there's some kind of interaction they don't want to happen, and that's very scary.
Was it? I mean, how do you know that?
Nexus magazine, some of my own research, scientific research, some of the incidents reported, other books. There are a few connections. You've got Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island incident, the horrendous Fukushima incident, Japan. You know, one or two others.
So what happened when, in your earlier childhood, did you have some kind of abduction or any kind of a strange event, or meet any strange things or visitors like that?
Not really through childhood. Not really, no. The only things I can remember from childhood would be when we lived at a North Carlisle suburb where I basically grew up from 1 to about 20. Massive pylons at the back.
Yeah.
I remember a white bouncing sphere going along like that. That was the one thing. The only other thing from childhood at there, where the massive pylons were, there was a report of it in 14 Times. There was some kind of incident out the back. We had these jet fighters going over. The report in 14 Times said one of the fuel tanks had come off into the road. We thought there was a mid-air collision between two jet fighters. It was hushed up, covered up. But
what type of fighters were they?
I couldn't tell that. But there was a crane out the back. They said they were moving a pylon from one bit to there. We think that was just a cover story. But there was a report that made it into 14 Times to do with that. those are the only two where I grew up from about 1 to 20 at that I can recall.
So that leads us on to other UFO cases.
Mm-hmm.
Can you list some of them?
Okay. Going back to the horrible setup after graduation from the Carlisle city, just north, about 10 miles north, you have the Longtown town. And that's where I saw my first UFO crash. It was at night. I was looking out my bedroom window south.
Right.
And I just had my music on. I was looking at the A7 road, and I was watching all the car lights going along the A7.
Yeah.
I had my hi-fi on, I had my music on. I always had this sort of urge or want to, by that time, maybe just like look for UFOs out the window.
Yeah.
And I learnt a few things from some documentaries that telepathy was real and stuff.
Right. Why did some of those documentaries say that?
Yeah. I believe it's been scientifically proved. You know, they call them neurotransmitters.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I had my hi-fi on, music, watching the car lights at night on the A7. Let's try a contact.
Yeah.
Is it someone programming me, or am I using my documentary knowledge to try and initiate a contact? However, seeing a small dome-shaped craft come over the farmer's field, it crashed at about a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Soon as it crashed, all the lights around the rim were out. Terrible incident.
What happened then?
That was the first time I personally witnessed a UFO crash. It was like
Right.
dome on the top, all the lights around the rim. Bang! Into the farmer's field. All the rim lights went out.
Yeah.
That was it.
Jesus.
Sandy Sike, 1999. Little wee linear settlement, 2 miles south of Longtown, approximately 10 miles north of Carlisle city. Yeah.
So, any more cases which would give rise to you being treated differently like this?
Sorry, repeat.
Any more cases where there's evidence that you would maybe be treated or potentially be mistreated?
At this year on the base, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought.
The year on the Sandy Sike base.
Yes.
Yeah. They brainwashed the degree out. I got mustard gas. Lungs went really cold. I had a discharge coming out my nose. That the most frustrating thing about was that they were invisible, and I learned it from a William Hamilton documentary.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. They would have a flashing belt. I think it was like diagonal. Most of them, I could see like a flashing belt of diagonal like that. Now, I was told they were reptilian occupation force. I was told that the ones that crashed at Sandy Sike 1999 were grey occupants, but I don't know. I was warned as soon as that UFO crashed the lights out. Someone warned me, stay there, do not go out, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly.
But, the linear settlement at Sandy Sike, I was told earlier in the war, they were initially MOD police houses. That's what I was told when I moved in. They gave home to the council.
Yeah.
It was a lovely area, gorgeous river there, and
Yes.
just farmland and blah blah blah. But standing at my front door, paying the coal merchant once, I was pure chance. I was lucky enough to see 2 spacecraft actually flying in to the base. That was a much nicer thing to see than a darn crash.
Yeah. So what is the situation with regard to your ability to have, this UFO situation?
Sorry, ability?
Well, why... I'm still got a mystery as to why you were given this UFO book.
Just Christmas shopping, an impulse buy.
Yeah, but they could have got you a book on astronomy and things. It just there's a whiff here of armed services and children involved in programs. Do you have any recollection of any base that you were onto when you to partake in as a child, like being given special injections or drugs or something like that?
No, nothing like that through my childhood. No, just the white sphere bouncing where the pylons were.
Yeah.
The mid-air crash. Something out the back with the crane. They said they were moving the pylon. Blah blah blah. The report made it into 14 times. No, nothing of that nature throughout my childhood. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that kind of stuff was given to me early adulthood.
Now, what do you mean by that kind of stuff?
They brainwashed my degree out. So I believe they call it zero option or something. I went for an interview.
Sorry, could you just say that again? They brainwashed your degree out. What do you mean by that?
I went for an interview from Carlisle to Penrith with the Environment Agency. I'd put in 4 job applications with the Environment Agency before that. They moved the headquarters when it was the National Rivers Authority in Carlisle. They moved the headquarters from Carlisle to Penrith, and it became, from the National Rivers Authority, it became known as the Environment Agency. Headquarters now at Penrith. So I was lucky enough to get a job interview at Penrith. I believe after 4 applications putting in, the job offer was to monitor lake water quality in the Lake District. And there's various topics come up. The job was to monitor lake water quality.
Which is simple enough, but did you discover something odd? Well, it's a complicated thing. You've got to take lots of tests, but...
Yeah, I couldn't answer some of the questions that should have been in my head regarding lake ecology and things. They brainwashed it basically.
Why did they brainwash it?
Yeah, it was to give me zero option, I believe. They didn't care about anyone's desires, hobbies, interests, jobs, blah blah blah. That they just wanted UFOs shot down. End of. They didn't care about anything else. Whether that's the army, the air force, the reptilians, whatever. People at this Sandy Sike base wanted UFOs shot down. Nothing else. That was it. And,
why did they want them shot down? Any particular types or what?
I believe the Reptilian Occupation Force were obsessed with getting Pleiadian technology. But there's beam ships that the Pleiadians use, but there's another form of ship which is just absolutely beyond us. I mean, it must be hundreds of years, if not thousands of years of technology beyond us, or the Reptilian Occupation Forces.
So where are these aliens? Where are these Reptilian Occupation Forces? I mean, explain that. And are you getting readings out of a book, or you've read a lot of stuff from David Icke? I mean, how do you know about this?
The Reptilian Occupation Force? They told me they were reptilians when they mustard gassed me. They would deliver some kind of pain into my brain as they interrogated me. And that linked into my grandfather's work on submarines at the Anthorn masts and things. So the reptilians thought my grandfather had told me a lot more classified information than he ever had. He'd told me virtually nothing. These reptilians, for some reason, thought that my grandfather had divulged loads and loads of top secret info to me regarding all his work, and he hadn't done that. But they were obsessed. They were obsessed with trying to get Palladian technology. But I don't think it was the beam ships, though. I mean, the beam ships must be absolutely incredible as well. But they wanted this other technology, which is absolutely beyond us. Amazing. They call it null time. But
I mean, have you had experience with any of these people, creatures? Have you ever, you know?
Over the years, the Palladians befriended me, and I had no idea that it would all be connected. But going back to the final property I lived in with my parents before I went to Sunderland University, it's a north suburb again at Carlisle. Lived there, I think it was about just 92 to about 1992 to about 1995. But I was at Sunderland University, excuse me, so I was coming back and forward between my studies.
Yeah.
But again, I had the bedroom looking east from the north suburb house shared with my parents. My other families had moved out, so there's my parents and me. Nice detached house. I had the music on in the back bedroom, and to the east there was only a few really nice large detached houses there, and it was just fields and countryside.
Yeah.
I could hear the M6, bizarrely. I could hear the traffic on the M6 to the east of that. I had my window open and I would just have my music on and things. But I had several sightings there. Several sightings at the north Carlisle suburb.
Yeah.
Before I graduated from Sunderland, 95, 96, 97, ending up at the sightings at the second North Cumbria suburb were a regular beam ship at night.
Yeah.
There'd be a rotating red part, and there was like a guardian, what I would call a guardian ship, coming in at night. I could see the flashing waveguide at the top. Could make out the outline.
Yeah.
There's a low humming. It was very slow at night like that. And a fascinating link here was that one sighting out the window there was like a red sphere. Now this red sphere would bounce like that, and then the red sphere would loop like that.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that? I had no idea. But an interesting link. I was lucky enough to get to a Bufora conference in Bristol, I think it was, 1993, and they were doing a speak there, and the guy speaking described the identical object. Its colour was the same, the flight path was the same, it was bouncing and looping the loop. So what I'd seen there, this guy speaking at Bristol had seen somewhere else. So we come to the conclusion it was some kind of Foo Fighter or something. We don't know what it was. Yeah.
So Foo Fighters is a Second World War thing. You know, why did you think that? mean, was that something that was put into your mind as a possible solution by the UFO?
No. It was just a fascinating link that what I'd seen there, it was the same colour and size, and it was doing the same thing that this guy was talking about somewhere else at Bristol, you know. But the beam ship was definitely there. The Guardian ship was there with the waveguide flashing, you know. And the horrible one there. There was one horrible incident there.
Yeah.
The Greys came for me because I pulled some documents at Bristol and it brought them back up to Carlisle. It highlighted plans for one particular race for a slow takeover. I think it was the Greys. And they came for me right to my bedroom window. All I can remember of that was this circular thing. And now it wasn't a flying saucer going like that. You know, this thing was on the angle. You know, you get a flying saucer going horizontal. This thing was like at 180 degrees to that. It came flying down like that. It was spinning like that, but it was at 180 degrees. And then there was an entity coming towards me, my neighbour's hedge there, and all I can remember was these two white eyes crackling through, and then nothing, invisible, and then nearer to my bedroom window, two white eyes through, crackling again. And I got that report to Tony Dodd, and he was able to report that before he sadly passed away. But that was the scary one amongst them all. And they held me down on the bed. My parents were downstairs cooking dinner and watching the TV. I was paralysed, I couldn't speak. There was a big grey. He held my arm down.
Yes.
And he goes, should we cut your arm off to make you like Billy Meyer? So that was the scary one.
So where do we go from here in terms of this UFO thing? I mean, it looks as if you've got a lot of detail there, and those are all your own experiences or relayed to you by me.
Yeah. I only lasted a year at the base at Longtown Sandy Side. And I was lucky enough to move back to Sunderland. I didn't know what the hell to do once I'd been brainwashed. I was lucky enough to get accommodation back at Sunderland, and I tried to do master's degree block weeks. I'd come and go a little bit, and then I got accommodation at Hilton Road at Sunderland. So that was like a life-saving escape, I think.
But you got yourself into university. I mean, where did things go wrong as such?
Just conflict of interest. My interest was environmental science. You know, I want to put the pollution right. I want to clean the water up, stop the ozone hole, conservation. I'll plant trees to stop the flooding and things like that.
Yeah.
And they were all just obsessed with wanting UFOs, unfortunately.
Who was? Who's the they?
Yeah, the Reptilian Occupation Force.
And you met these guys?
Irritatingly, they were mostly invisible. They had flashing diagonal belts, and I would often walk from the base at Sandy Site to a beautiful spot at the River Line or River Lynn.
Yeah.
And I seen a wild golden eagle there, which is fantastic. I would go to the river there just to. It was a beautiful spot, beautiful river. It was nice out there, but and I could, on the walk back from the river to the Sandy Site, I could actually see these. I could see the massive Anthorn masts.
Yes.
Almost in a straight line as I was walking home from the Beauty Spot River to the Sandy Site Council House. but I didn't last there very long. But yeah, irritatingly, they have different frequencies that we can't see.
Yes.
Some of the different ones. When I got interrogated there, I could hear his steps on the wooden staircase at Sandy's side. But I couldn't see him. I could hear him walking on the wooden steps. The flashing belt, you know, semi-opaque like a heat is, but they're a lot cleverer than us. So.
No, but have you met, describe any meetings you've had with these beings. How do you know this?
When they interrogated me, they told me they were reptilian. Alpha Draconi or something's one of their systems. They want Palladian technology, no matter what. Not just the beam ships though, the what's known as null times, some form of, I know it sounds amazing, some form of time travel. They won't share anything like that with us because of nuclear weapons, they say. But the beam ships...
I mean, what's the reason for this?
Again, they don't want us to make some of the mistakes that they've already made.
Can you identify those mistakes?
Going back to a documentary where the Lyarian Eye of God, a whole star was blown up.
Yes.
I believe some of them evacuated to Earth thousands of years ago, but history and languages were never my subject of interest or strength. But from a documentary, some of that came through, and but I learned a few things from some important documentaries, like the ability of telepathic between us, maybe them in one of their UFOs and stuff. They don't want us to make some of the mistakes that they've already made.
So, in terms of UFOs and your background, tell us more.
I wanted to stop the pollution. You know, that was my interest. They wanted UFOs. To me, UFOs were just an interest, fascinating. You know, the crop circles became a part of it. To me, it was just a fascinating interest, like a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, but my main focus was, you know, I've got to get a job. You know, everyone has to work. Blah blah blah. But my interest for work, through my successful studies before the erasures and stuff, was to sort out pollution and things like that, conservation, increasing biodiversity, etc.
Well, this is absolutely amazing. So, the point is, Nick, that we're setting your groundwork here, and you got yourself your BSc, and UFO things happened, and then you put on drugs of some kind.
Yeah.
What about life? I mean, as such.
From...
Well, you got university. What actually was the thing which went wrong? Because you then had a period of time, you know, with the health service.
Yeah. They did a thing that they called ECT at the time.
Yeah.
That was like 1994. They called it electroconvulsive therapy at the time, I think.
Right, but why were you actually? I mean, were you? I mean, I'm trying to get you. What got? Were you institutionalized?
Yep. Yes, I was.
And why did they do that?
I think they just wanted to cover up all my UFO sightings, etc. They were so solid and corroborative with 2 witnesses.
Yeah.
The red loop one, I seen it. The guy talking at Bristol seen it. The debunkers couldn't debunk it. You know, these.
What was that case? Was it written up before or where?
Yeah, it was the Bufora conference in about 1993. So 2 witnesses, different parts of the country, same object, same colour, same flight path, same loop-the-loop things, you know.
Where did it come from and where did it go to?
I have no idea that particular one.
What's the case known as?
I don't know that either.
Right, but it was featured in the 1993 Bufora conference.
Yes, it was.
That would have been pretty close to 30 years. The 30th anniversary of Bufora, I think.
From its start.
Yeah.
I have a neighbour who used to like Bufora, and he's fell out with Bufora over the last few years.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's quite common. I think everybody's fallout was before, insiders, outsiders, whatever. But the thing about it is that what is a significant thing which brought you from having a BSc to having these problems and being having years of therapy which didn't work and then it did work, and then explain all that.
The NHS called it ECT, electroconvulsive therapy. But I think they just wanted to erase the UFO material. Interestingly, I was resitting A-levels at Carlisle College, but I passed my A-levels at the second attempt. So
now, how bad were your grades the first time and how good were your grades the second time?
yeah, well, I had interests other than studies at the time, sporting interest, etc., football, etc. So that didn't help. But geography was always my strongest and most interesting subject, and probably still is. Total connection to the environmental stuff. But yeah, I got really good grades. GCSE, I got grade B geography, and chemistry.
Yeah.
Chemistry and geography were my 2 A-level things I wanted to do. I got a grade E in geography first time round. I didn't get chemistry at all.
Right.
So I got 2 good grades in the GCSEs. I got a grade B media studies and a grade B English language in the 6th form.
Right.
So then I got to Carlisle College to resit some A-levels. And I got grade C geography and I got grade C environmental science. And I picked up GCSE biology grade C. I failed geology, but that was enough to get me from Carlisle College to North Wales Bangor. But the fluplenthixol injections were damaging my eyesight with my lectures, pulled out of there, etc., etc. Come off the fluplenthixol injections, got to Sunderland University, graduated, blah blah blah.
Well, that's all bloody blah blah blah. But I'm still trying to connect how many UFO cases you had and what actually put you above the radar, so to speak.
Put me above the radar.
Well, on the radar.
On the radar.
I mean, you weren't Mr. Normal.
Mr. Normal, or the ECT stuff.
Yeah.
They just wanted to brainwash the UFO stuff out. You know, it's interesting that I passed my A levels.
Yeah.
You know, at that time as well. So selective brainwashing looks more than likely in that case, I would think. Some refer to it as EDOM, electronic dissolution of memory. Articles in Nexus magazine.
Yeah.
Kind of
And
stuff.
you're subscribed to Nexus?
Yep, Nexus magazine is my favourite science journal. Yep.
And what else is happening with this thing in Cardiff? That was had, you know.
In where, sorry?
In Cardiff. Was it Cardiff or Wales or what?
Carlisle?
No, Carlisle. Jesus, going up all around the country. Sorry, Carlisle.
I passed the A levels, got to Sunderland University, graduated, back to the base 1 year, no good brainwashing, back to Sunderland, and then when I got back to Sunderland, I was able to embark on some block weeks of Masters Science modules. And I was able to come away in the end with a postgraduate certificate in environmental management. The reason I took that study path was due to my A-level resits teacher inspiring me.
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah, my grade from Sunderland was 2-2 with honours. I needed a 2-1 with honours to do a PhD. So the only route for me to go from Bachelor of Science degree to PhD was try to get a Master's degree. But I did come out with block release intensive study weeks with a postgraduate certificate in environmental management, which I was quite pleased with considering all the erasures and brainwashings that had come previous.
You see, the thing I'm trying to get is, why did all this brainwashing start? What is the key thing which brought you into that situation? What changed? What key element?
They're just obsessed with wanting UFOs, however and whatever. There was some kind of abduction at the base. Now, my neighbour was a DERA programmer. I know that for a fact. They gave me
DERA being the Defence
Evaluation Research Agency.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I got a couple of job offers there. When I was walking home from Longtown, the long way around, past Sandysyke Industrial Estate, there was some lorries there and things. And it was just a nice walk home, you know. From Longtown to Sandysyke, it was like a longer way home.
Yeah.
And there was some lorries there and stuff. And there was a guy at one of the lorries as I walked past. And he offered me a job in the space field.
What do you mean? Describe that event. Go into it in detail.
I was walking home from Longtown to Sandysyke.
Whereabouts roughly is this?
Yeah, it's about 10 miles north of Carlisle.
Okay.
Carlisle, 10 miles north, Longtown. 2 miles south of Longtown, Sandysyke. But instead of using the A7 to walk, I would walk like a C shape from Longtown easterly, and like a C around there. Nice walk, but they just wanted space stuff, space, shoot downs, technology, blah blah blah. It wasn't what I wanted to do as a job, I suppose. I saw UFOs as an interest, more of a hobby I think. You know, this guy was doing something with trucks. You know, do you want a job in the space field? Well, the brainwashing thing was what really annoyed me, I think. But there was big building there, and I got a glimpse in through these doors once.
Yeah.
And there was like a saucer thing there, but it had two like protrusions like that. Saucer there, protrusion there, protrusion there. And I got a telepathic contact from some of my space friends regarding this job offer. Do you want a job in the space field? Do you want a job in the space field? And these space friends would come back at me telepathically, don't bother, they are putting weapons on them. Don't bother because they are putting weapons on them. And what I learned at that point, they'd be shooting them down, repairing them or reverse engineering, whatever, putting whatever kind of weapons they have with those tornadoes and etc.
Yeah.
The GR4s and stuff onto those, and they were flying them back up to shoot more down at a higher altitude there and stuff. So that was just more upsetting for me. You know, when I witnessed the first crash, and there was one further crash after that in Northumberland, I'd befriended them through hobbies, so for me to witness the crash after befriending them,
Yeah.
to me that crash was like a family car crash. That's how upsetting it was to me. And the second crash, which you might come on to later. So yeah, UFOs were a fascinating hobby to me, and then the crop circles came in a bit, but you know, UFOs were just a fascinating hobby, you know. I never considered it for one moment as a career path or a job or anything like that. You know.
Bloody hell. Yeah. So we're coming up to the end of the first hour, and we're really sort of verging on all this UFO stuff, but I'm really still not really clear as to why, you know, this happened or what led up to it.
The Sandy site crash?
Yeah.
Elaborate?
Well, why I still haven't clicked as to why they decided to start, you know, what made you get sick and need to get the convulsant therapy and stuff. Well, what was the thing which did that? What incident happened?
They just wanted to brainwash out the UFO sightings. Cover up.
And did they do that? Did you get more recall? I mean, it must be horrendously distressing to go through all that.
Yeah. It was like seeing a family car crash because I'd befriended them. Over time, the memories came back, thank goodness. Some of them, yeah. It's weird what'll trigger a memory sometimes. It really is.
And what triggered it for you on this occasion?
I can't say. That all kinds of things seem to trigger different memories at different times. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we'll have a little pause, and we can evaluate what we want to do next.
Yeah.
And just have a little break. Okay.